Geeks for Geeks has a challenge for you, the 390 challenge. Choose what you want to learn in 2024 and aim to complete at least 90% of the course in the next 90 days. And if you do that, you get back 90% of what you paid for the course. We believe you can do that. Now all you got to do is commit to your success. Commit with Geeks for Geeks.
Okay, guys, we are live. So, hello everyone, I'm Viraj Jain and welcome back to Geeks for Geeks. And today, guys, we're gonna start with Next.js. So, I hope you all have watched my previous videos on TypeScript because we are going to use TypeScript along with Next.js. And today, this is just a basic video. We are going to just discuss some few topics and then we're going to install Next.js. And then I'm gonna set up a very basic project so that we can later on work on that, right? So what we're going to cover in this all over series of Next.js is previously we covered the whole TypeScript. You can watch the playlist available at Geeks for Geeks development channel. Now, if I talk about Next.js, Next.js primarily consists of two things, that is React.js and then also you are using TypeScript in Next.js. So basically two things, React.js and TypeScript. So these are some mandatory skills which you must have. You must know React.js before learning Next.js. Okay, so that's the prerequisite. And also if I am saying React.js, that means I am talking about HTML, CSS and JavaScript also, right? So first thing, that is React.js, and second thing is TypeScript. So to watch TypeScript, you can watch the same playlist available in the Geeks for Geeks development channel, and there you can learn about TypeScript, which I have taught, and then you can continue with today's video. So here we're gonna cover the installation and basics today. Then after that, in the next video, we're going to cover layouts and navigation, and then we are going to cover routing in navigation. Then we are going to cover Redux integration with Next.js. So these are all the topics which are really important, and if you know React.js, all the topics like hooks, components, different elements, all of these topics are in React.js. Along with that, we have some extra topics which we are going to learn in Next.js. So that's why Next.js has a very few topics which we are going to learn, and I am going to assume that you know React.js at least till intermediate level. Okay, so I'm going to mention what you must know in React.js properly so that you can start with this Next.js series. Okay, then after learning Next.js important things, all the features, we're going to build one front-end project, that is to-do list application using Next.js and TypeScript. Then the second thing which we're going to build is a shopping cart application using Next.js and TypeScript. Then guys, we're going to build a merge stack project. Yes, so in merge stack, what do we have? We have MongoDB, Express, React and Node.js. So instead of React, we're going to use Next.js. So it's like men stack, but yeah, again, it's merge stack, and instead of React.js nowadays we use Next.js. So we're going to build a big project of 6 sessions. Okay, we're going to take 6 sessions for for that project, and this project would be a file sharing application, just like you might have used iPhone's AirDrop or Zender, like that you share files, right? So similarly, we're going to create a website and which would help us to share a file from me to my friend. Okay, so going to be very great project, and that would require all 4 skills: MongoDB, Express, Node.js and Next.js. Okay, so I think this is fine, and now we can continue. So before continuing guys, one more important thing, that is, if you want to get the source code, I'll be uploading the complete source code in my GitHub profile. So let me just share that to you. So what you need to do is you just need to type github.com/viraj014. That's the GitHub profile, and you can just type this in your browsers. Once you type this, you can just go to repositories, and in repositories you would find the TypeScript Next.js GFG. If you don't find this repository, please search the name here. You would find this repository, and you can mark it as a star so that it's saved for future. Okay, Haji, hello, hello Haji. Yes, so the complete source code would be available here. Previous videos TypeScript code is available here. Similarly, we're going to create one more folder which would contain our Next.js codes, right? So now let's continue with a basic whiteboard representation. So I'm just going to draw something for you. I'll explain why do we really need Next.js and where do we actually use it first. Okay, then we're going to install it. So this is going to be an introduction, then we're going to perform the installation. Okay, So first of all, you must know one thing, that is Next.js is a modified version of React.js. Okay, it's not a competitor of React.js. It's a modified version of React.js. So it's like you must know React.js before starting Next.js. Okay, one thing. So I'm just gonna write that what's the prerequisite. Let me just write here prerequisite. So prerequisite. Okay. What is the prerequisite of Next.js? So the prerequisite of Next.js is basically you need to know first of all, like HTML, CSS and JavaScript are the mandatory. Okay, HTML, CSS and JavaScript is important. Then you need to know React.js. Okay, then after that I'm gonna say TypeScript is not mandatory. You can just use JavaScript in Next.js directly, but since TypeScript is more preferred nowadays, so I'm gonna say that you must know TypeScript also. Okay, so these are the things, and we have already covered TypeScript just now in the same playlist, so you can watch TypeScript videos from there. And if I talk about this, you can find the similar videos in our Geeks for Geeks development channel. You can find them there. Okay, so these are some prerequisites which you must know for learning Next.js. Okay, then after that, one more thing is we are going to use Next.js in MERN stack. Okay, we are going to use Next.js in MERN stack. So let me first explain what's exactly MERN stack. So MERN. Okay, so MERN, this is MERN stack. So MERN stack is basically for people who want to learn full stack development. Okay, want to become a full stack developer. So M stands here for MongoDB. Okay, and a lot of you might know this, but I'm repeating this so that it's clear. So M here stands for MongoDB, which is your database which you use for building, like for storing data. And then the second thing is Express. So Express. And then guys, we have Node.js. So this is for your backend. This is for your backend, and this is also for your backend. Now R stands for React.js. Okay, so this is for your front end. So what we're gonna do is, if you are a MERN stack developer, you would know this. What we're gonna do is, in MERN stack we use React.js, but nowadays instead of React.js we use Next.js. Next.js is nothing but a modified version of React.js. That means all the features, all the syntax which you had in React.js would be still the same. You have some extra features which you get in Next.js. That's it. That's what Next.js is. It's not any competition of React.js. It's nothing different. You don't need to learn completely different thing. If you know React.js, just some extra features are there in Next.js. The code is exactly same, the way you write exactly same, the topics, the names, exactly everything is same. Okay, so that's where you're going to use Next.js. So in MERN stack, instead of React.js, now we're going to use Next.js. That's it. Okay, so this is how it's done. And now what we're gonna do is how, like, Next.js is basically useful for us. So what would you do is, like, if you want to become a full stack developer, if I talk in terms of full stack, just a second, guys. Yes. So if you want to become a full stack developer, what you can do is, so I'm just gonna write full stack here first. Full stack, right? So if you write this, I think we have a doubt. भैया एक question बस clear कर देना. I got a question from somewhere that if you are building a chat app, then would be uses SQL or NoSQL database based on the use cases. What use cases? I'm not, I mean, where to use SQL and where not to use. Okay, like I'm not really good at SQL. Like personally, I didn't ever learn about MySQL. I always follow MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database. So I think I'm not a right person for answering that. But still, right now, I think this is the first time which I heard this kind of doubt that like there is some preference. There's one basic difference between SQL and NoSQL database. Let me just explain that. Basically databases are of two types. Okay, so generally of two types. There might be some other type also later on. So yeah, first type is SQL, and then there is NoSQL. And honestly, I have built a chat application using MongoDB, there is no problem. Okay, there is no problem. I haven't faced a problem. Works fine, and a lot of people actually use that. So there might be some there might be some case, I'm not really sure, I haven't used SQL. Okay, so but let me just show this. So an example of SQL is what? MySQL, which you might have heard about. So MySQL is an example of SQL. And NoSQL, example of NoSQL is MongoDB. I'm just telling you the basic difference. I'm not saying that this is good, this is not good. It's not like that. It's personal preference. Okay, so MySQL, if I talk about this, it first of all is like a table format. Okay, it's suppose table format. Okay, SQL simply supports the table row format, table row column format. So it's like a table row column format. For example, suppose you have a user, so the first field would be containing the username, second field would be containing suppose the password, then email. So table column format. Okay, similarly other users data. Okay, in each line like that. Okay, but yes, if I talk about MongoDB, it contains data in document format. For example, you can assume it as having an array, or we call it a collection in MongoDB. This is an array, and you can store object. You can store an object, like you know what's a JavaScript object, right? Name, email, password. We have key value pairs. So you're gonna store multiple objects. This is a data of first user, second user, like that. So personally, I have created a chat application in NoSQL, that is MongoDB. I didn't face any issue, but I have to search about it. What's the basic difference, that what's slow, what's faster. Okay, so someone has mentioned in React Native हमें MongoDB as a database यूज करना चाहिए या Firebase कंपनीज में आपके लिए Firebase as a database. No, you are confused with Firebase. It's not like that. Firebase is like a complete collection. Okay, you have your backend and database all together, and you don't need to code that much. That's what Firebase is. MongoDB is just a database. Okay, MongoDB is just the database. Like if I say Firebase contains just some set of commands, okay, that would allow you to store and get data, and you don't need to create any kind of backend. You can just directly call the Firebase commands to create a user, to modify the data. That's it. Okay, so it's not a database. Okay, it's like a tool which would help you to just create, read, update, delete something without actually having a backend or without actually having a storage. Firebase would act as a backend as well as a storage. Okay, that means a database. MongoDB is just a database. That means MongoDB does not have a backend. It's not a backend. MongoDB is just a database. Okay, so it's just a DB, just a DB. Along with MongoDB, we suppose use Node.js as backend. Okay, so Node.js as backend. So either you use MongoDB and Node.js, that means MongoDB database and Node.js backend. Either you use MongoDB and Node.js, or you use Firebase. Okay, so Firebase has some limitations. That means you can't actually build everything by just calling commands. You have to write your own code. Okay, so it's like I would say Firebase is good for those projects which actually don't require that much kind of complexity. Firebase is really great. But if you are someone who has a complex project, and need a lesser costing backend, I can say. Okay, Node.js and MongoDB backend, which Node.js backend and MongoDB database all together would be still costing you less if you do something in Firebase. Okay, so Firebase would obviously cost you more because it's a service, and Node.js as MongoDB can be hosted anywhere, but Firebase is itself a service. Okay, so first of all, it's way more costlier. Okay, if I talk in terms of a backend created in Node.js and MongoDB, Firebase would act as your backend as well as your database also, but it would be costlier. And second thing is, it's not for complex applications. Okay, it's not for complex applications. This MongoDB and Node.js is less costly, and it is good for complex applications like chat applications. Okay, complex apps or streaming services like Netflix, right? So yeah, that's the basic difference. And I would personally say, if you are a beginner and you just want to become a front-end developer, Then you can go with Firebase acting as your backend and database. But if you want to become a full stack developer, you would be learning MongoDB as database or whatever database you would like, as well as some backend language like Node.js. Okay, so it's like if your goal is to become a full stack developer, you would be using MongoDB and Node.js. If your goal is to just become a front end developer and you don't need that kind of backend, or you have very basic backend, then you can use Firebase to just perform some commands. Okay, भैया कितने डेज में बैकएंड कंप्लीट हो सकती है? आई वुड से if I would start from today and I want to become a good one stack developer, I would say at least give it 4-5 months at least. Like, obviously you would learn the complete theory part and skill part in 1 to 2 months, okay, but after that you need to build some good level of projects. Okay, so in around 2 months you would learn the complete, if I talk about one stack, you would learn the complete one stack. But after that you need to build good projects so that you know more hidden topics, as well as you brush up your concepts, right? So I would say around 5 months you can give to become a full stack developer. And if you just want to learn backend, I would again say give it 2 months at least so that you learn the backend part. Okay, all right, so now let's continue, and I wanted to explain you Next.js now. So yes, how Next.js can be used, I'm going to explain that. So if I talk about full stack, okay, if I talk about full stack, what it really is, full stack, what is full stack? So basically full stack is just like, if I give you example of YouTube, if I give you example of YouTube. So YouTube is what? YouTube is a very good example of a full stack website. Okay, website. So here you can see, if I give you example of YouTube, so YouTube would be having a front end UI, right? Front end UI, as well as YouTube has a backend UI, right? So YouTube has a, like, I'm sorry, backend. Okay, it does not have a backend UI, it has a backend. Okay, so front end is like, you see this red color, and you see this live chat, and you see this video and likes and photos. All this comes in the UI part. Okay, so you can assume that, suppose right now you're watching my live session. Okay, so you might see a window like this. Okay, you might see a window like this. Okay, here my video would come, and suppose in the right side you would see live chats. Okay, you would see live chats, and then at here you would see the channel name, and here you would see the number of likes, and here you would see number of dislikes. Okay, so it's like this, and then some more buttons. Okay, so you can see this is what UI is. Now what's in the backend? Backend would be containing your video. Okay, your live session would be first sent to the backend, to the YouTube server, and then it's sent to some other devices. Like, if I am recording video, I'm taking live session, I would be first taking the live session, and this would go to YouTube's backend, and then it would be sent further to the audience. Okay, it's like that. Okay, so whatever I'm just taking is first going to the backend and then being sent to you. Okay, so yeah, your video, if you're either talking about live or a recorded video, whatever it is, first it would go to the backend, stored in the backend, and then it would be sent to the front end, right? So yes, video would be sent, and suppose channel name would be sent, and like, it's basically, I'm sorry, I'll just write it again. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll just write it again. Okay, I'll just assume database is also here. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll just add one more thing here. I'll just cover database also, that would be better. Okay, so backend and database. Okay, so let's first explain the database. What would database contain? So database would be basically containing what? It would be containing, suppose, channel details. Okay, for example, Geeks4Geeks development channels name or description, or number of subscribers. Okay, whatever they are. Okay, so channel details. It would also contain videos, right? YouTube videos. It would also contain what? It can contain chats. Okay, live chat or whatever chat you have. So you can see these are some data which the database would contain. Obviously, data would be stored here. Now, how does the backend help here? It would allow the front end to communicate with the backend. First of all, front end would communicate with the backend. Backend would communicate with the database to bring the data. Now database would send the data to backend, and backend would send the data to frontend via using what? Via using API. Okay, API is what now? API stands for Application Programming Interface. It's a term basically. So for example, if I give you example of profile picture, okay, profile data, for example, if you say Instagram, okay, let's take Instagram example, that would be really easy. So Instagram, I use this example a lot. So Instagram, so here suppose you are using your mobile, okay, you are using your mobile, and guys, here what you would see is this, suppose your profile picture, and this is suppose your name. So I'm just gonna write, okay, let me just write my Instagram handle here at the rate Harshal underscore 3011. Okay, so you can see that you have your name, and suppose you have some description, and then you suppose have some profile pictures or your some post, okay, some post. So you can see that's how Instagram page looks. How you are getting this data? First of all, whenever the page loads, you would send an API call. Your API name would be suppose get user. Your API name can be anything. That's what the backend developer decides. What would be the API name? Okay, so this is decided by the backend developer. Backend developer would decide the API names and would create the APIs inside their backend. Okay, so get user data. So I'm calling the API from front end to backend. Okay, so this is suppose my backend. Okay, this is suppose my backend. I'll just, this is my backend, right? So it's what? FT front end, and this is what? Backend. And here what would happen? There would be number of APIs, a lot of APIs would be here. One of the API is basically get user data. Your API would be defined here in the backend, and from frontend you would be calling this API. Inside this API, what you would say is you would ask for genuine details. Is the user logged in or not? If the user is logged in, then find which user you want to look. Is this your ID or not? If it is your ID, then only you can get the data. I hope you are getting this. Some verification would be done. If you learn complete full stack, you would understand it. But right now, assume that some verification is done here. And once it verifies that the user which you are looking for is your ID, okay, the data which you want is your data, then it would ask the database for your data. So you can assume that this is your database, and assume that this is a table. Okay, although you are using MongoDB, but still assume that this is a table, and suppose this is line number 1 contains some user data, line number 2 contains some user data, line number 3 contains your data. Okay, your data, that means this line number 3 contains your data. So this is suppose my data. So this is what I'm gonna send to the backend, and backend would again do some verification. Then the backend would send this to the front end, and your data would be shown to your Instagram page. Okay, so that's how an API call works, and this is a very basic example. You'd be creating thousands of APIs in your backend, and you'd be calling those APIs from your front end. Okay, one API would be, for example, you have a registration page. Okay, suppose you have some register page. You are taking user's name, okay, email, and password for registration. Okay, so what you would do is you would send this data to the backend. Okay, to the backend, you would send this data to the backend. Suppose in backend we have an API which would like suppose we have some register API. In the backend we have register API. Okay, we have register API. So from front end to backend, from front end to backend, we call an API. Suppose the API name is register user, and we sent this data, that is name, email, password, okay, to the backend. Now in the backend, what would happen? You would receive this data, and your API would also be called. Suppose in backend you have defined your register user API. So you would say when register user API is called from front end, what you have to do? So you would write some commands here, that is save data to database. So what you are doing is save data to database. So you would be saving this data, that is user. Suppose you'll save the new user in this row, and you'll save this, and then you would send the successful response, and then in the front end you would say okay, 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 data is saved. That's how registration would occur. Okay, this is a very basic example. Now, what I wanted to tell you is, first of all, I hope now you know that how front end, back end, and database work together. Now, in this case, what would be your front end, what would be your back end, and what would be your database? Let's understand that in terms of mon stack. Okay, so for database, in terms of mon stack, we're gonna use MongoDB. Okay, so here I'm just gonna write MongoDB. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, in the database part, I'm gonna use MongoDB. Okay, MongoDB. In the front end, I would use language like Node.js and framework of Node.js, that is Express.js. Okay, then I would use in front end. Generally in Monstack, we use React.js for building this kind of front end, Instagram or YouTube. But I would be using Next.js now because Next.js is a modified modern version of React.js. Okay, so from now on, after learning React.js, you're gonna learn Next.js. Okay, that means with extra features, Next.js is better. Okay, so what are some extra features? Let's discuss that. And one of the feature is, first of all, Next.js provides better routing. Okay, so we have one feature, so I'm just gonna write first feature which Next.js provides better is routing, better routing, easier routing in Next.js, and dynamic routing in Next.js. There are some concepts which you would learn later on. Then we have easier, you can say, styling. Okay, we have easier styling. It's same CSS, but the way of styling is different. Okay, so styling is easier. Okay, and makes things more systematic. And then I would say that it has server side rendering, SSR. Okay, and it helps us in SEO. You might have heard about search engine optimization. That means it would allow Google to rank your website higher, because next year would have some extra tools for SEO. So we have SEO tools also, which would really help us better for SEO next year. And SSR is what? Server side rendering. It's like when you share like a YouTube video to your friend on WhatsApp. You see that when you share that message, you see that YouTube videos thumbnail also comes up automatically. Okay, this is what? This is server side rendering. Without watching the video, your image directly came here. Okay, that's what server side rendering is, and you're sharing it to some other platform. Okay, I'm not talking about from YouTube to YouTube. I'm saying from YouTube to WhatsApp you're sharing this, and in WhatsApp you see the thumbnail of YouTube. This is what? Server side rendering. Okay, so we have some good concepts here, and these are some important highlights of Next.js. And also, like, it uses TypeScript and very easy to use. Okay, so it uses TypeScript, although React.js also uses TypeScript, but I think that Next.js is also using TypeScript. That's why I mentioned that. Okay, it's not a feature. It's like, yeah, we use TypeScript here. We also use JavaScript also in Next.js, but TypeScript is considered better in Next.js. Okay, so we're going to use TypeScript. So these are some things. Now in React.js, what you must know, let me just write that before continuing. What you must know in React.js, so I'm just going to write React. In React.js, what you must know before continuing to Next.js. So first of all, in React.js, you must know about routing. Then you must know about navigation. Then you must know about hooks in React.js. Okay. Then you must know about what? I think one more thing is, yes, components. How to create components. That's very easy. Components. And I think one more thing can be APIs. How to connect a backend or connect some API to React.js using fetch or Axios. Okay, and one more thing which you must know is, um, I think that's it. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, I think that's it. These are the things. If something comes up in my mind, I'll mention that also later on. Yes, yes, yes. You must learn one more thing, that is Redux. Okay, although Redux is very easy, but this is used for state management. Okay, so you need to know these before jumping into this Next.js tutorials further. Okay, so please learn all these things in React.js, so that later on you can start with Next.js properly. Okay, so now I'm going to assume that you know these topics, so you are watching Next.js series. Okay, now let's continue with the setup and installation. Right, so first of all, guys, what we need to do is we just need to visit the official website of Next.js. So I'm just gonna take you there. So Next.js. Okay, if I type this, You can go to this and you can see this is the official website of Next.js. If you click on get started, and you can see that it's a very good thing, and installation, you can see, yeah, very systematic UI, and you can read documentation from here. You can see that we got this command. But before that, guys, I would like to take you to React.js official website. So let me just write React.js. Once you write React.js, here you can see in the React.js official website, you just go to learn React and then go down, and I think um, installation. In installation, you just need to click on start on new project, and here you can see, as soon as you visit here, you see this command, Next.js command in the React.js website. They are officially validating Next.js. Okay, I'm not saying that this is good, this is not. React.js is itself mentioning that please use Next.js now. We are getting older. You must use Next.js, which is a modified version of modified version of React.js. Okay, so that's why they have mentioned here. So if you want to do installation, either you can follow this same command is written here. Okay, so I'll just copy this. And what you have to do is you need to have VS Code, okay, Visual Studio Code. So I'm just gonna write VS Code. Okay, just write VS Code, and then what you need to do is you just need to download the setup, and then when you'll install the setup of VS Code, just check all the check boxes, then your setup would be done, your setup would be installed. Okay, so when you install this setup, just check all the check boxes, then everything would be done. Now one more thing which you would need is Node.js. So I'm just gonna write Node.js. So let me just take you to official website of Node.js. And here you can see we have the LTS version and current version. So I would say go for the LTS version, long-term support, so that it's in support for you all, so that if there is any issue, it would be solved easily, right? So you can just download this, and again you just need to install this by clicking next, 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 and then it would be installed. Okay, so three things: Next.js website, you can get the command here, npx create next app, okay, at the rate latest. Then the second thing is VS Code, and the third thing is Node.js. Just perform this installation. Now we are going to actually perform this installation. Just wait. I think we have a doubt भैया, एक और query है, backend same for web and app both. अगर मैं backend पढ़ूँ तो दोनों जगह use कर सकता हूँ. Yes, yes, yes. What you can do is, that's what I did. Okay, that's what I did. Like, you know that for building a website, full stack website, you use Stack. Okay, you use other things also, but assuming that you learned Stack for building full stack websites, here R stands for what? React. And in modern term, I can say React. Just in modern terms, I can say Next.js, right? So instead of this, this is for what? This is for websites. If you want to build mobile apps, Android or iOS, what you can do is you can just use React Native. That's it. Okay, so it would help you to build mobile apps. Instead of this, you can use something else also. So what I mean is, backend would still be the same. You get Instagram data in Instagram website also, you get Instagram data in Instagram mobile app also. Same data is there. So backend would be still same. You can just change your front end. That is for mobile apps. You can use React Native. You can learn React Native, and you can use that. Same backend would be used. Front end would be changed. And for websites, you can use React.js or Next.js, right? That's how things would work. So it's like a very good thing, I would say. Like एक तीर से दो निशाने, right? And now let's continue. So I hope you have installed Node.js. Just download the setup and install Node.js by clicking next, 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 and it's again next, next, next. Just check all the checkboxes, and then now we're going to come to this website and copy this command. Copied. Now I'm going to create inside this, we were working on this folder, right? We were working on this folder in the TypeScript series. So I'm just gonna continue with this. So here I'll just right click and create new folder. I'm just gonna type Next.js codes. Perfect. If I hit this, you can see it's done. Now here, guys, what you need to do is just right click, and you must see an option of open with code. So if you have followed my instruction, that is check all the checkboxes while installing VS Code, you'll get this shortcut. Okay, so now you can see that this is here. This is here. Now if I go to the terminal, right here, you can see that a terminal would open up like this. Terminal would open up. Now you just need to paste Control V. Just paste this, or you can directly write this For running npx this command, your Node.js must be installed. So actually what you can do is, first of all, check the version of Node.js. So for that you just need to write node dash dash v. I'm sorry, I think it's dash v. Yes. So you can see we have this version of Node.js. That means we have Node.js. Perfect. Then after this, guys, we can use this command npx create next app at the rate latest. Okay, at the latest. So what you recommend, React Native or Flutter? I would recommend you can go with React Native, because if you are a Monstack developer and you have learned React.js or Next.js, React Native would be way too similar. Like you wouldn't feel that I'm coding it for mobile. It's like same, exact same syntax. Some things are different, but yeah, you would feel that syntax is almost same. So React Native is a better choice if you are a beginner and you don't want that much of mess up in your mind. So you can go with React Native. But yeah, if it's in your demand and you want to learn further, then obviously you can learn different things. You can go for Kotlin also later on. But yeah, if you don't want that much headache for now, you can start with React Native, so that you at least know that how Android applications are built. Okay. And I would say that if you like, suppose you know full stack website, how to build full stack websites using React.js, Next.js, you know the backend part. Now you want to become an Android developer using React Native. So maximum, I would say, 1 week would be required to learn this, to learn React Native. That's it. So it's very easy, and the fastest way to become an Android developer after web development. Okay, so that's why. But definitely, Flutter has its own benefits. Okay, I also learned Flutter, not that much because I was comfortable with React Native, or then later on I shifted to Kotlin, which is I would say बहुत पंचायत है, but still the best and hardware based. Okay, it's hardware specific. Kotlin is hardware specific, and if you want to build complex applications, you can go for Kotlin later on, but that's for pro level developers. Okay, but if you just starting with Android development, I would say after months, like if you are starting with app development after web development, and you are starting with app development, you can go with React Native. Very easy and fastest way, and it would help you clear all of your concepts of Android development. Okay, then after that you can switch to Flutter, or you can go for more advanced level like Kotlin. Okay, so let's hit enter here, and you can see that this would be created. So it's first of all asking what your project name, so I can give it any name. So I'm just gonna say my pj1. Okay, my pj1, and I'm going to use TypeScript. But if it's your choice, you don't want to use TypeScript, you can skip it. But nowadays it's recommended, and I think in YouTube tutorials or anywhere you would see Next.js series, they are mostly using TypeScript, not JavaScript. So that's why I'm going to prefer TypeScript only. Okay, so yes, hit enter, and then you're using ESLint. ESLint is just like it would be helping you for debugging, okay, for checking the errors. So just hit enter. Yes, I'm not going to use Tailwind CSS. We are going to follow plain CSS. But if there is someone who knows Tailwind from you all, can actually use Tailwind also. But I'm not that great in Tailwind, so I'm just gonna skip that. Okay. Although we are going to use MUI, Material UI later on, but for this case, I'm just going to say Tailwind is no, and SRC directory yes, and app router as yes, and then import alias no. So you can see that a Next.js project would be set up here, right? So it's very easy to create, and it would now take a few minutes or seconds to be completed. So let's wait for that. Okay. So you can see that the project has been set up. Now what you need to do is, now let's try to run this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to explain this, what are exactly these folders. And first of all, you need to know about this node modules. All of your packages later on, you're going to use Material UI or something else. All of those packages which are required to run your application would be installed here. Okay, suppose if you delete this, totally fine, you can delete this. Okay, but and also you delete this, also, but don't delete this. Okay, don't delete package.json. If you have package.json and your node modules or package.json are missing, you might be seeing in a lot of projects which you download from GitHub, those folders or files might be missing. What you can do is, I'm just gonna right click, open an integrated terminal, and I'm just gonna type npm I. If I hit this, you can see that it would again install all the packages. So package.json contains the list of all the packages. It's not installed things, It just contains these packages are required. Now, if once you type npm I first of all go to package.json and it would look for all the packages, are they available or not. If they are not available, you can see node modules all missing. That means all the packages were not available. So it would install the packages. So you can see automatically node modules is created. It contains all of your packages, and then also package log JSON is also created, right? Fine. So that's the purpose for these three things. Now what's public? So your website, your compiled website, like you would be writing code and you would be running that, creating a website out of it. The final version would be actually placed inside public. That's it. Okay, that's what public folder is for. Now one more thing is you can see ESLint. So this is for ESLint. This is for like you are using ESLint for debugging. So for that this file is required. That's it. And git ignore is for GitHub. You can skip that. And then we have env file. This is next env. This is just like if you want to use environment variables, which we are going to use later on. For that we have this. Okay, then we have some configuration for Next.js. Then we have some configuration for TypeScript because we are using TypeScript, right? Now what's inside src folder? Inside src folder you'll understand things throughout, but the very important page here is page.tsx. Okay, but what's the starting point? So starting point is basically your layout.tsx. You can see your starting point is layout.tsx, and this is what HTML page. Okay, you can see this is HTML document, right? So inside this, you can see your components which you created in React.js would be loaded. You can assume your components. Okay, so we are just going to create different components later on in the upcoming videos. I'll make you understand everything, but right now you can see this is it. So what would happen? This is your main starting point. Inside this you are showing a page.tsx. Okay, so let's start page.tsx. I'm simply going to write, we are inside my pj1. I'm just going to write npm run dev. Okay, once you write this, it would basically start your Next.js application. And once you start this, you can see that it has started on localhost 3000. As soon as you click this, you would see a basic Next.js pre-built page. Okay, you can see this is pre-built, this is automatically built. What you can do is instead of this, I'm just gonna write something else. Okay, so I'll just remove this. You can see this is just like React.js. Okay, React.js, very easy. So you can see I've removed this. Now you can see everything is gone. If I write h1 tag, I'm just gonna write hey there, this is me, Viraj, or I'm just gonna write my name. Okay, Harshal. Okay, okay, so you can see that I'm getting this message. So this is like your home page. You can see this is like your home page. So this is a very basic introduction of Next.js. I hope guys you understood this. Now we have understood the very basic like overview, just like overview, how what's this folder structure and what's the starting point. Starting point is layout.tsx. Inside this we are showing page.tsx. Where is the CSS? You can see here is the CSS, same CSS just like React.js, nothing is different. If I remove this default CSS and if I remove this default CSS, you can see that now you can see this is just like normal plain just starting code. Okay, so that's how it looks. Now in this video we just covered the basics. In the next video guys, we're gonna start with routing. That means home route, about page route, contact route, and different kind of things. Then we're gonna learn about navigation. We're going to learn about this layout, what's exactly this layout is for. Okay, we're going to learn about that also. And then we're going to create a very basic project, and we're going to learn about how to actually use Redux. Okay, we have folder structure एक और बार short में. Okay, so first of all, I told you about node modules. Node modules just contains all of your packages which are required to run your application. So you can see the list of those packages would be here. It's just like a text. Okay, it's just like a text. Okay, and whenever you start your application, first of all your application starts, package.json is called, and you can see we have some dependencies. Dependencies. Here you can see it's saying React DOM and Next.js is required. Package.json is saying that. So package.json is saying these three things are required. So first of all, my like my terminal would go inside this node modules. Okay, node modules, and it would look for React DOM and Next packages. Okay, if all these three packages are available, then that's fine. Else we will receive some error, and then we need to install that using npm I command. Okay, so and node modules, package log JSON and package JSON are really important to just contain and just to keep your packages which are required to run your application. These three are important. Now the next thing is, you can see we have env. This is for environment variables. We're going to use environment variables later on. So this is for environment variables. Like for example, you are connecting your backend to front end, so you would be having some backend key, right? So to keep that secret, we have environment variables. Okay, so we are going to create environment variables later on. Then what else? We have ESLint. ESLint is for debugging, which we get by default in Next.js. We already installed that by default. It helps us to get errors into our terminal, okay, so that it's safe to just build that application later on and just host it somewhere. Okay, so it's like it would throw errors if there is an error in your application, okay, some extra errors. Okay, now what else? I think one more thing is next config. It contains the configuration required to run Next.js application. Then it contains the configuration which is required for TypeScript. Okay, some of them you might recognize these, which we covered in TypeScript series, right? So yeah, these are some configurations, and I think that's it. And now inside this you would see the public folder. What's public folder? Public folder just contains your final version of website. Okay, once you write this, once you run this, your public folder would contain final version of your website. That's it. Okay, I'm sorry about I said one I did one mistake. Public folder would contain your images. Okay, I'm sorry. Public folder would contain your images, public images. Okay, it's like it's containing an SVG. You can contain images, store images, which is for public. It's like you might see fav icon at the top of website. For example, if I just show you one example, you can see at top, you can see it's n is here, is what it's called, fav icon, right? Similarly, you can see this react sign is also here, it's what, fav icon. So these kind of images which you want to show to everybody, you can store it inside public folder. The final version of code would actually come inside your .next folder. .next folder. Okay, so this would contain the final version of your code. So if I delete this, okay, continue, you would see when you install the application for first time, you won't see this next folder. Okay, so I'm just gonna delete this. Yes, okay, it would be deleted. Okay, I think this project is running, that's why. Okay, so I'll just terminate this. Now you can see that .next folder is gone. What it does is, your src folder, whatever code you have written, this, whatever it is, it would compile that into a final version, a production ready version, okay, production code, into the .next folder. So if I just write this, you can see a .next folder would be created here, and you can see it's created here and just contains the same code. If I go to static, and you get a lot of files here, you can see we have a lot of files here. You can just check out, although you won't understand anything, and neither I do understand anything here. Okay, but yeah, you can check out this, and this contains the final version of your code. That's it. Okay, so these are some structures, and inside src you would be writing your code, your components, your hooks, your pages, whatever you want. You'll be writing everything inside src folder. So this is our main folder. Okay, so that's it. And one more thing which I would tell you is, like, you might know about React.js components. So inside src we have one folder named as component. We'll just create one folder. It would contain all of our components. Okay, so let's say we have one component named as navbar dot tsx. tsx stands for TypeScript XML. Since we are using TypeScript, that's why we have an extension for TypeScript for storing components, for creating components, tsx, TypeScript XML. So here, if I would just write RAFCE, what is this? This is a React.js snippet, simply applicable to Next.js also. Okay, what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to explain you how you can install this. You just need to write ES7 plus. Once you write this, you would just install ES7 plus. Once it's installed, if you write RAFCE here, you would get this template ready. Okay, now you can see I simply created a component. Okay, I simply created a component. Now I need to call this inside, suppose, home page. You can see this was the home page, right, at the top, suppose. So I'm just gonna write nav navbar, okay, component which we created, and you can see that how it's imported. Automatically at the rate symbol came here. What it means is, just go outside, that means just go to src folder. At the rate simply means go to src folder, that's it. Inside this, look for components folder. Inside this, look for navbar. So inside this, go for components folder. Inside this, look for navbar. That's it. Okay, so you can see it's very easy. And now if I just show you the website, you can see that, okay, I need to start this, I think. Okay, it started. Let me just refresh, and there you would see the navbar component. You can see navbar component is here. Okay, so this is just a very basic video, and I hope you understood this, how to set up Next.js application, why we use Next.js, and some features, and later on we'll explore more features in brief, in depth. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. I'll just upload this code on my GitHub account. Just a second. um just a second. So git add dot git commit m next js1. Okay, and git push. So guys, now you can see that yes, Next.js codes folder is here. To access this source code, what you can do is you can just type github.com/viraj014 in your browsers. You can just type this. It would just load my GitHub profile. Okay, this is my GitHub profile. If you want to contact me, you can contact me on Instagram, or you can contact me on LinkedIn. You can message me there. Now in the repositories, you would find TypeScript, Next.js, GFG. If you don't find this, you can search the name here. You would find this, and also you can mark it as a star so that it's saved for future. Inside this, you can see that we have the complete source code. Today's source code is available here, my pj1, which we created, right? So it's available here, right? So you can take reference from here. Whatever you want to do, you can take reference from here, right? So that's it for today, guys. In the next video, we're going to start in depth with Next.js. I hope you understood this video. I will see you in the next one. Till then,